All right, y'all. So look, man, I'm gonna get straight into it. UFC 294. We're gonna start from the main event. We're gonna go all the way down to the first fight of the night. First things first. Islam Makhachev, head kick, headshot bang on Alexander Volkanovski. Now, I'll tell y'all something about that shot, right? Two things, right? A couple things. Let's just dive into it. First things first. Anybody that honestly picked either Islam, we'll talk about the co-main event, but anybody that picked Volkanovski to win, it just goes to show the disrespect to both fighters, right? Because you're underestimating how much preparation goes into a training camp of an all-time fighter like Volkanovski, right? It's a lot of seriousness going into it. I mean, look what happened in his last fight. He was eating a certain amount of food, bulking up properly, all these things he was doing in that first fight with Islam, and it led to a really great performance. But I think the biggest, like, a blessing and a curse for Volk was him winning that fifth round, even though he clearly lost 4 rounds. He clearly lost the fight unanimous decision. That fifth round ending was a blessing and curse for him because it made people really have the audacity to think that Volkanovski actually might have beat Islam, or because of the fact that he made it a close fight and Islam didn't finish him, Volk's the winner here. Like, it was a very delusional, it was a lot of delusional takes for Volkanovski over the past 8 months. And I know that I gotta feel good for Islam to get the job done. But in terms of the fight, guys, like I was telling people, Islam was already preparing for a striker in Charles Oliveira. So that means that, you know, him facing off against Volkanovski is not gonna be too much different for him because he was preparing for a striker. And what did Islam say in the post-fight interview? That same combination he threw at Volkanovski, he was literally drilling that the entire camp for the fight with Charles Oliveira. He said it was no difference with Volkanovski stepping up. So the styles make the matchups, guys, and once again, because of who Islam was preparing for and because he had a full training camp, you can't expect somebody to come in on short notice and beat Islam. Like, have we lost our minds that much to where we think that somebody can come in and beat Islam Makhachev, damn near a Habib, a better striking Habib? Y'all really thought that he could lose a fight on short notice to a guy that just jumped off? Like, come on, man. Like, let's have a little bit more respect for the athletes going forward, even in terms of Volkanovski too. Obviously, we see the best version of him because he has full training camps. You can't expect him to just jump off the couch and go run in there and go finish a fight. Like, that's really delusional thinking. But the fight played out how it played out. Volk really couldn't get much going. Obviously, we know his takedown defense is good, so he'll never have to worry about that. But yeah, Islam set him up, and still. So yeah, on to the co-main event. You had Khamzat versus Usman. This is also another fight where it was a disrespect to both people. It was disrespect, you know, to Usman because obviously he puts a lot of great preparation into training camps for title fights, 5-round fights. And for people to just think that he could just run in there and go get a job done, it's like, come on now, like, are you forgetting the preparation that goes into it? And then the same thing with Khamzat. Khamzat was preparing the whole time, and I know some people are gonna say, yo, it was a 29-27, and then on 2 scorecards, and then one judge had a 28-28. Guys, if you don't know, Khamzat broke his hand in the first round. So it's a part of fighting. Injuries happen. Khamzat broke his hand in the first round, and he still was able to get that wrestling going in the first round and in the third round, which ultimately made him win the fight. I think Usman obviously did land some pretty good shots on the feet. But once again, I mean, Khamzat had a broken hand. The fight was a good fight. You know what I mean? Like, Usman was offered to take the fight for 5 rounds and he didn't do it. But, you know, had he done it and, you know, the same results played out the way how they did, he probably could have won the fight because the extra 2 rounds with the compromised Khamzat, it could have been a little bit tricky. You know, Khamzat was doing a really good job getting the fight to the ground, which a lot of people didn't understand. Like, I was really asking people, do y'all really think that a 10 days notice Usman is going to be able to stop a fully training camp Khamzat Chimaev? Even with his broken hand, Khamzat was still able to get the wrestling exchanges going. Like, we gotta really start using our heads. And I know some people are gonna say, oh, you can't predict the MMA match. That is true, guys. You know, it is what it is. MMA is a crazy sport, so we're all gonna give our analysis of fights, but like, let's try to be on the more logical side the majority of the time, right? Because just because fight results can get random, it doesn't mean you're gonna run around and say, well, I think Volkanovski's gonna knock out Islam, and I really truly believe, like, with no real breakdown of it. You know what I mean? So try to have some logic when you're actually breaking down fights, even though, you know, the sport is so crazy. So the previous fight before that was Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Now I feel really bad for Magomed Ankalaev, and the reason being is because just last year, December, you know, he was robbed of a win over Jan Blachowicz. The fight was called a draw. He should be the light heavyweight champion right now. And then he goes into this fight right here where obviously this was his fault for landing an illegal knee. And, you know, obviously the doctor came in there, wanted to stop the fight, was just going crazy. Bit of miscommunication between the doctor and Johnny Walker in terms of like if he was able to continue. Fight gets stopped, weird sequence breaks out. Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker's trying to fight each other in the octagon. Just really weird. Dana had to come in there, tone it down. So like honestly, they're just gonna have to run the fight back. Simple as that. They just have to run the fight back. Magomed definitely was gonna win the fight. Like Johnny Walker just doesn't have nothing for Magomed when he's fighting in a technical fight like that. He's better off fighting like the old Johnny Walker. Obviously he's gonna probably pay the price for that, but high risk, high reward. So yeah, that fight's gonna have to get just get it rebooked. They probably can even jump on maybe not 296, but you know, the rest of the cards are so stacked for the rest of the year. I don't think there's gonna be any spots where they could jump in. Maybe if it's like a random fight night, maybe they can get that fight going again. Yeah, that was just literally that for that fight. The previous fight before that, we had Ikram Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves, and Ikram's obviously the real deal. The scariest thing about Ikram is that he's like a world sambo champion, and we haven't even seen him attempt a single takedown. Extreme power in his hands, and it's crazy because the only loss that Ikram has in his career is to none other than Khamzat Chimaev. So we can see that matchup in the future. I think after those two back-to-back insane performances by Ikram, first round finishes, he's gonna get that big fight that he was supposed to get. I think UFC might even rebook Ikram versus Paulo Costa, only because like Paulo Costa is just like he's such a mess. You know, it's been a mess with him, but I think UFC will try to rebook that. I think they want to get Ikram up in that top 5 just right away because the middleweight division is so bleak right now. So they're probably gonna win. I mean, Khamzat's gonna get a title shot after beating Usman, so that should tell you about what's going on with the middleweight division. And Warlley Alves, shout out to him. He's another fighter that took the fight on short notice. He had no real chance going up a weight class against a beast like Ikram. He had no real chance. Next up, we had Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Muing Gurov, and Saeed Nurmagomedov has done this before. He's finished fights quickly with submissions with guys that are being sloppy on takedown attempts, right? When I watched the film, Muing was being extremely sloppy with his striking, just being really sloppy. And it's like, when you're gonna go against such a technical guy and you're gonna decide to be that sloppy, you're probably gonna get finished. So what happened? He got finished. So yeah, it was a really quick fight. Muing was being really stupid, low fight IQ. And you know, Saeed Nurmagomedov locked up that guillotine, man. He has a dangerous, it's like a ninja choke. He has a dangerous standing choke. So people need to really use their common sense when they're trying to just randomly shoot a takedown on him, because they don't want to deal with his insane striking. I also think that Saeed Nurmagomedov got robbed in his last fight versus Jonathan Martinez. And don't get me wrong, Jonathan Martinez is the real deal, but Saeed got robbed in his last fight. So bantamweight is definitely the best weight class inside the UFC right now. So much talent from the top, probably the top 20. There's so much talent at bantamweight, it doesn't make any sense. The previous fight before that, we're going all the way back to the prelims. Tim Elliott versus Muhammad Mokaev. Muhammad Mokaev is the real deal. He has like 4 finishes in 5 UFC fights, like 3 submissions, I think a KO or somewhere, like, yeah, probably a KO. But yeah, this fight, he just showed his submission defense is on another level. Even when he's in these bad positions, he always gets out of them. His wrestling is on another level. His fight IQ is on another level. He has decent enough striking, good enough striking, and his patience is really on another level. So he's ready for top 5 opponent, like next fight. Like, he shouldn't be fighting another guy that's like ranked 8 or something. He's now going to be ranked number 10. He needs a top 5 opponent like right now. So yeah, Muhammad Mokaev is the real deal. Next up, it was Muhammad Yahya versus Trevor Peek. Trevor Peek showed some kind of, I want to say, some kind of growth. His striking is still a little bit weird. He still has a little bit of his own style with the weird hammer fist, stuff like that. But yeah, he showed the ability to be able to wrestle, the ability to be able to be patient, to press forward in the fight, not just be reckless and go crazy. I think the biggest blessing for him was losing to Chepe the way that he did, because it's almost like he kind of implemented that game against Muhammad Yahya, a guy that just wasn't interested in throwing out any kind of volume, just sitting on the back foot, looking for counter strikes. Those type of fighters are not going to be good. Unless you're from France, you gotta be like a William Gomez. You gotta be one of those French fighters if you want to fight like that. And if you're not from France and you're fighting like that, you're probably not gonna be that great. So yeah, Trevor Peek was able to get the job done, get the wrestling going, get the clinch work going, control time and all of that. So definitely excited to see the growth of Trevor Peek, because he showed a big time improvement from his last, his first 2 fights in the UFC. Then we had Javid Bashaw versus Victor Henry. This fight ended in a no contest. Javid landed a groin strike to Victor Henry, and it was a really, really bad one. Like, even afterwards, guys, like Victor Henry was throwing up. I think it was like testicle fluid. Like he's really badly hurt. I know some people are gonna try to say, oh, Victor Henry quit, and they're not gonna do their research. They're not gonna pay attention to what happens after the fact. Like, you can't fake throwing up testicle fluid. So if anybody's that dumb enough to say, oh yeah, no, Victor Henry was on, you're a freaking idiot. But the way how the fight was playing out, Javid's a good prospect, but he's just not really that dangerous. He was dangerous outside of the UFC, but since he's gotten to the UFC, not really dangerous. And Victor Henry was a type, he's the type of fighter that picks up the pace as the fight goes along. So we didn't get to really see the full fight play out. They may rebook that fight, maybe not. I don't know how severely injured Victor Henry was, but you could tell he was badly hurt with that nut shot. Like, anybody that knows, guys, all my guys watching this video, y'all know when you get hit in the nut, you could get hit anywhere. It doesn't even have to be a direct hit. It could be a slight touch on once one of them balls get hit, bruh, it's bad. You can even hear Victor Henry say it on the say it in the damn fight on the broadcast, is DM balls, like, I got hit all of my DM balls, like, straight up like that. So it was really, really bad. Wish him a speedy recovery. And hopefully Javi can get a fight booked again pretty soon. We had, the next fight was one of the more frustrating fights on the card. Tajikis Dumas versus Abu Azaitar. I had SD winning the fight. Like, I picked him to win, but honestly, I feel like he just lost the fight, man. Like, for him to control the entire first round with the wrestling exchange, right? And then go the whole next 2 rounds without even trying to get close to get a takedown. It was so frustrating. It's like, with these fighters in the UFC now, guys, I think we have to really remember that the UFC is gonna bring in guys that shouldn't probably be in the UFC, but they're gonna grow in the UFC. So they have their raw, they have that talent that's there. I'll give Dana White, Mick Maynard, all those guys that does the recruiting and that whole team, I'll give them props for it, because they'll bring in guys that they're not ready right now. They might look really terrible, they might have a loss, but they're gonna actually grow up in the UFC and end up becoming a really great prospect. And I think SD has the ability to be able to do that. He just needs to put together his fight IQ, man, and his striking was looking really sloppy. Like, he just wasn't putting anything together, no sense of urgency, and he got handed the fight, because I thought he definitely lost like a split decision. He should have definitely lost that fight. He did nothing, the next 2 rounds at all on the feet, so I don't know how the judges gave him the fight. And this is coming from a guy that picked SD to win. I had money on SD, but yeah, I would have to get that fight to Abu, if I'm being honest. We had one of this. Now, this is a fight I want to talk about, right? This is a guy that I hope to never ever see fight. I hope to never ever see fight again. I'm gonna tell you why. And I'm never this harsh on somebody, but I'm gonna tell you why I hope to never ever see this guy fight again in his life. I hope he retires and goes on with a new career. Like, just put fighting down. This guy, Anshul Jubilee, right? Probably the first Indian fighter in the UFC, right? Goes up against Mike Breeden, a guy who's had multiple losses inside the UFC. I don't think he had got a win up until this point. You have the ability to wrestle this guy, right? You have good top control. You showed it in your last fight versus Jekka, right? And you go out there versus a guy like Mike Breeden. He was winning the striking exchanges. I'll be honest. He has some good striking. I cannot lie to you guys about that. Jubilee has good striking, right? And he was having good striking exchanges versus Mike Breeden. But we've seen Mike Breeden go against a guy like Natan Levy, who has great kicks and is a better striker than he is a grappler, and get about like 9 takedowns just constantly because he was just pressing for it, right? Jubilee didn't shoot any takedowns. He had such terror. He was reaching after last takedown. You could just tell he's such a mental midget. You could tell he's such a punk. I don't even understand, like, when the going gets tough, right? You're in a fight. The going is going to get tough, but when it gets tough, what are you gonna do? And the 3rd round comes around. This guy Jubilee starts getting barked at by Breeden. Not just that, that's it. Starts getting barked at. Breeden starts doing a showboating, all this talking, and then Jubilee just turns into a scarecrow, starts getting jabbed, and just standing there, and just gets finished. So it's just like, that's the type of, it's hard to really put into words because I'm such a big fan of the sport, but if a guy like that's gonna go in the cage, and that's all it takes for him to just fold, is for some guy to start barking at him and start jabbing him, and he loses a fight, it's like, bro, you're gonna get severely injured if you're gonna go into the cage with such a small, like with such a trash mentality, such low fight IQ, to not get your wrestling going at all, to not control the pace of the fight, to stand with a guy who's known to just continuously strike. It was just such a mental midget moment from him, and I never want to see him fight in the UFC again. I'm on it, like honest to God, like this is one of those situations where if they can cut a guy like Saeed Kakramanov, I think his name is like Saeed Kakramanov, something like that. He fought against Ronnie Lawrence. If they're gonna cut a guy like that, they need to cut this guy. He needs to go back on the regional scenes, get his confidence back, because he's kind of reminding me of that guy that was in the octagon and he was telling his coaches like, no, I can't do it, I can't do it. And then what happened? That guy shortly retired afterwards. So I don't want to see no mental midgets fighting in the damn octagon. Like Ashu Jubilee, my least favorite fighter in the history of me watching any combat sports, and I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. Next up, we had Muhammad Naimov versus Nathaniel Wood. These are tongue twisters, so just bear with me. I had Naimov winning the fight, and the reason being was simple as this. Naimov just took a short notice fight at 155 versus Jamie Malarkey, got a knockout. Nathaniel Wood is a former 135er up at 145. He's been knocked out before at 135, right, by John Dawson. And then 145, his most recent fight, he was getting stunned by Andre Fili multiple times. So even though I love Nathaniel Wood, I was rooting for him. I'm not gonna lie, even though I put my money against him, I was rooting for him because I like his style. He has a lot of skill. It just wasn't gonna work out for him, right? Naimov was just too big, was able to get the wrestling exchanges going, was able to hurt Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood did hurt Naimov too, but it's up to Nathaniel Wood to say, I have to make 135. I need to change my lifestyle to make 135, because he can go, he was on like a 3-fight win streak at 145, but it's like, bruh, you're better off going back down to 135. Focus on controlling your weight and just fight there, because him being at 145, he's just too small. It just doesn't make any sense. He's like 5'6". It just doesn't make any sense. He needs to be fighting that bantamweight. Don't pull a Frankie Edgar and fight your whole career up weight classes, and then at the end of your career, fight at 135. Look pretty decent. You know, things could have been different, you know, for Frankie Edgar had he decided to just simply fight at bantamweight early on in his career. So yeah, I would love to see Nathaniel Wood try to really hone in on making 135, because he has the skill, but it's just like in a fight like this, the wrestling was too much, you know, and that's it. He was just too small compared to Naimov. Naimov is a former 155er. He just fought at 155. Nathaniel Wood used to fight at 135. That fight just wasn't gonna go well for him. So yeah. Then we have Victoria Dudikova versus Jinyu Frey. Victoria Dudikova, I was kind of iffy about her striking, but she did a pretty decent job on the feet when she couldn't get Jinyu Frey to the ground. So that's pretty much how the fight played out. It wasn't too crazy. Jinyu Frey was able to keep the fight standing. She didn't really do too much, but you know, Dudikova showed that she actually hurt and dropped. Wait, did they count that drop? Because I know they love to not count stuff. Okay, so they did count the knockdown. So yeah, she got the knockdown versus Jinyu Frey. Pretty good striker, pretty decent striking. And the future is bright for her. She's only like 24. She looked real good, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, she put on a pretty decent performance. So shout out to Victoria Dudikova. And the last fight, or you know, the first fight that opened the night, was a fan favorite, Shara Magomedov versus Bruno Silva. Sharo, great striker, great striker, and it's crazy he's doing that with one eye. It's insane. The guy's a great striker. He could use his hands a little bit more to set up his kicks. He has such great kicks, but if he uses his hands a little bit more to set the kicks up, he's only gonna get better, right? And even when he was being taken down off of his back, prime Tony Ferguson, throwing up elbows, super active off his back, not just trying to fight randomly in the bottom, but actually effectively landing strikes from bottom, landing elbows. If Sharo can just focus on, you know, obviously stopping the takedowns, because people are going to try to take him down. He's such a dynamic striker. They will attempt to take him down. He's going to be a problem in the middleweight division. And once again, the middleweight division is so sleek right now, but the future is bright for the middleweight division, because some of these up and coming guys we got, these Russians, man, they're coming and they're coming to take the division over. So yeah, that was the card of UFC 294. Overall, I enjoyed the card. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Won some money back, I ain't gonna lie. Nothing what I was hoping to get, but you know, we keep chipping away, and it's the same thing for any other life goal y'all got, man. Whatever y'all got going on in your life, just keep chipping away, man. Nothing's easy. Nothing's gonna come easy. Rome wasn't built in a day. And yeah, just appreciate all the journey to get into that point, and then when you get to that point, you can appreciate it a lot more because you were able to enjoy it while you were on the journey. So that's gonna do it for the for this video. Shout out to Volkanovski and shout out to Kamaru Usman above everybody else on the card, because without them this card would have got stopped, but they jumped in on short notice. They didn't get the results they were looking for, but they saved the card, and I know they got a lot of damn money. So that's gonna do it for the video. Make sure y'all boys like, comment, subscribe. It's your boy Jared Bless. See y'all boys later, man. Peace.